I'm absolutely delighted today to have been joined by Alessandro Adriani. Thank you for giving up your time in your busy schedule to do this. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Susie. It's a pleasure to be talking with you, always enriching, exchanging ideas and thoughts with you.
Excellent. So quick context for the audience listening who may not be familiar already with your background. So C-suite level, you've worked across global telecoms and tech organizations, and led from the conversations we've had, really large scale transformations, big brands, BT, Deutsche Telekom, and I know you'll go into more detail on that. Interestingly, currently doing a fantastic non-exec directorship role for F-Secure, so a cybersecurity company, which I'm sure you'll touch on too. But really looking forward to understanding, how you got to where you are now. So if it's all right with you, maybe dive straight in, and would you be so kind to give a bit of an overview of your career journey to date and some of those key decisions that have shaped this path to you becoming, a C-suite commercial and technology leader?
Absolutely. Thank you, Susie. It's always very, enlightening to reflect on a journey while, we run furiously to achieve all the different things that we've got in our life. So if I reflect back on my professional journey, I would love to tell you it's been a very straight line, very logical, very, simple, but was not. Actually, was much more an exercise of intellectual curiosity. So as my journey unfolded, I started as an M&A analyst, merger and acquisition, doing discounted cash flow and weighted average cost of capital and multiples, so much more a sort of merchant bank-like job, and consultancy, where I learned to look at the businesses through the lens of financial and commercial viability. So can we do this business? Yes. How much money do we make? How do we make money? How do we create value for customers, for shareholders, for employees at once? Yeah, those are the three communities we need to serve. And I use the word serve as I really mean it. I really believe it. Yeah, it's like, you are served in a restaurant by the waiter. Similarly, I'm there to serve my employees. I'm there to serve my shareholders. I'm there to serve my customers. So some of the names you mentioned clearly gave me exposure to a variety of different dimensions. Vodafone, Deutsche Telekom, British Telecom, they all gave me exposure to scale, to economies of scale, to economies of scope. In these large organizations, when you do something, a transformational project, you may have impact on big numbers. Big numbers meaning many customers, many families, many teenagers, many adults. And my aim was always to create simplicity for customers. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It's not simple by simplicity. And technology can help a lot through pricing, through transforming organizations like Deutsche Telekom, Singapore Telecom. I had the opportunity to live in Singapore as well. Create new solutions, easy for customers to understand, easy to articulate to customers, and then ultimately to their own customers, like B2B2C or B2B2B. And it's never a transformation led by technology, but it's always a transformation led by people. So that was intellectual curiosity was probably my first dimension to look at. The second dimension that driven my professional journey was still curiosity through a geographical compass. I'm curious about people, about cultures, about way of doing that are very different across different latitudes. Within Europe, outside of Europe, you go east, you go south, you go west, you go north, very different. And learning the lens of how they look at the business through their cultural lens is fascinating and super enriching. So second is the geographical compass on top of intellectual curiosity that has shaped my professional journey. Third, very important for me, is the academic discipline, meaning how can I logically explain what I'm doing in an academic framework so that sound logically sound, that comes across as, with a stamp of rigorous academic thinking, not only instinct, commercial instinct, but also capability to articulate the logic behind that. And so the commercial relevance, the intellectual curiosity, and the geographical compass were the three key drivers of my professional journey.
And on the last one you referred to there, which is the academic rigor, interesting as we were catching up. So you're a visiting professor of, do you say Henley Business School and Venice?
Correct. Venice University in Italy and the University of Reading Henley Business School here in the UK.
Fantastic. And we were talking about some of the interesting dissertations that you will be marking over the coming weeks. Looking at that journey, and you talked there about some of those key decisions that have shaped your experience. What about looking back, how you prepared yourself in terms of the ability to influence and strategic decision making, because that's core for C-suite roles? And I'd be really curious as to what helped you form the influence and strategic decision making skills.
That's again another interesting question to reflect on, because again I would love to tell you that to prepare for C leadership roles, the experiences are a straight line, a logical equation to solve. Actually, typically the moments are those where ambiguity exceed the data available. Or you are drawn into data. You got so much data that it's difficult to distill what are the key data to look at. Yeah. So those are, I think, the elements that most influence my strategic decision making, the capability to navigate through the ambiguity of data. And that's throughout the different geographies. So when I reflect back on my years in London, where I live today, this is my third time living in the UK, in Singapore, in Frankfurt, in Milan. It's this difficult job of balancing shareholder expectations, customer delight, multinational corporation needs and requirements, regional politics, regional, local regulation. Now in these days, we talk about data sovereignty, cloud sovereignty, things that are changing so quickly, and we need to adapt in order to fulfill these requirements. And the capability to make a balancing act between all these different elements is what shaped my strategic decision making to allocate scarce resources under uncertainty. Because at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. Yeah, you got some resources, not unlimited. We don't have any unlimited resources in our life, neither money nor time. Forget about everything else. And therefore, we need to be very diligent in how we allocate those resources, on which bet under uncertainty. And the interesting part in allocating these resources under uncertainty was never be complacent that a transformation is a technological transformation, and moving from legacy technology to a new fantastic awesome technology was never that. That's the easy part. The difficult part is the organizational transformation. Yeah. Because to move technology, it's fast. To convince one human being that technology is better, it's easy. The challenge is to convince the whole organization, to bring the whole organization behind, to move from legacy to new modus operandi, not technology, but processes that technologies enable. And that's, I think, is a very balancing act, because require cultural and organizational migration, require diplomacy, require storytelling, require resilience. And usually that's not done in the la la land where everything works fantastically well, but is done through downturns, through restructuring, through market transition. And at the end of the day, I think leadership is not measured by confidence during the growth, during the expansion, but by composure during the disruption times. And that's what define, in my eyes, leadership.
It's really interesting though, because it sounds, you're saying you're sort of constantly balancing multiple moving parts, and I guess in a constant search for equilibrium between all of those as these transformation projects progress. But it's not the first time that someone has shared that it's not just about the technology, it's actually about the bringing people along on the journey with you, and the influence and decision making is
completely,
it's key to success. So what if someone is looking to position themselves, so a senior leader looking to position themselves to drive growth and transformation across a complex business? How can they do that? If you've got someone maybe who's going to be doing their first big growth and transformation project that they're leading as a C-suite leader, how do they position themselves? Have you got any sort of tips that you would share?
Yes, definitely. I need to articulate a little bit better what I said earlier in terms of, I think the starting point is technology is a tool. It's not the end game. Technology is the enabler. Technology is the tool we use to solve the problem. We used to make calculations with a pen and paper, and then we moved to a calculator. And then we move from calculator to an Excel spreadsheet. And now we move from Excel spreadsheet to a ERP, or even more an AI solution. Those are all enablers. Yeah, that's not why the customer pay their bill. That's not why the customer buy our products. Yeah, that's an enabler to move from legacy, old, slow way of working to a new, innovative, fast, accelerating, solving the customer problems earlier. So technology is, I think, a key enabler, and that's need to be understood by whomever does transformation. That's not the ultimate game. You may have the most shining technology, but still the company is not delivering their results, because that's the transformation done badly. So that's the first starting point. The transformation is much more a cultural journey, is much more an organizational journey, is much more a behavioral journey. Yeah, it's an operating model, it's a process journey. The second element to enable transformation is credibility. Credibility from leaders to understand what happened at 30,000 feet, but also be able, in few areas where you smell something may be wrong, it is wrong or may be wrong very soon, and to go into the operational details. So that capability to look at 20 KPIs and then say, on this one, I want more details. On this 3, I want much more details, because they don't align with the rest, because they don't meet the customer expectations, because they don't meet the requirements by the regulators. They are very far off what the consensus of the merchant banks or the competitors are doing. So this capability to understand also the operational details on top of the strategic direction of travel is paramount in transformation. Frequently, I use a sentence there, Susie, which is, I work on the business, not in the business. Yeah, meaning I'm there to transform the business, to make the business suitable for the challenges we are going to face tomorrow, not for the challenges we faced a couple of years ago. That's already gone. Then, last, very important to me, is articulated transformation with a narrative. Not only the what we are doing, but the why we are doing it.
Mhm.
So I think people mobilize around the why, around the purpose, not on initiatives. That's the new initiatives. We call it XYZ. Companies are flooded with initiatives from different units, different departments, different regions. And some of them, yeah, you get it done simply to tick the box. So, yeah, I've done this initiative, so nobody can say anything negative about that. But if you really want to mobilize the company, you need to be able to articulate the why. Why people have to do that? Why the company has to transform in that fashion? So technology, credibility, operational details, and last but very important, narrative, the why. Those are, in my opinion, the three things I look forward when I start a transformation project.
And the last one particularly resonates, which is having a clear purpose. You're right, companies are awash with initiatives, but having a clear purpose. It's a you need so many skills to effectively drive these transformation projects. Anything else that you see which differentiates the leaders who consistently deliver commercial impact from ones that may struggle to get the results?
Honestly, when you look at leaders and you meet many with your job, you see that all leaders, I have to say, are very clever, very intelligent, very well prepared. Yeah, so that's not a differentiator. What can be the differentiator is the commercial acumen, is the commercial roundness, which sometimes some leaders either forget or they are very focused on technology or very focused on one aspect, but they forget the commercial relevance of what they do for the customer. Let's call it customer intimacy, and therefore how these new initiatives solve a customer problem. What is the problem, the job to be done? What is the problem to be solved for the customer? And that's what, at the end of the day, pay the salaries and remunerate the shareholders, pay the dividends. Second is probably now I'm kind of repeating what I said earlier, but the people alignment. So the why, the purpose, it's paramount in order to differentiate your leadership style and stand out against others. Spend time with the people to explain the why, to articulate the why, to bring them along with you in the journey. Yeah, that's also another element. And third, as I said earlier, is the operational details, the execution that can't be delegated all in to other people. Delegation is good up to a certain degree. So delegation is good, but you need to know what's going on. Yeah, or you need to have the capability, as said earlier, to really dig down into those operational details where there is something smelling wrong, where there is something that does not align with the rest, with the whole story. Yeah. So those are the three elements to me that leaders who deliver exceptionally good results are focused on: how to make money commercially, how to bring people along on the journey, and execution.
And you've touched there as well on some of the things that people who have an eye on that top tier leadership on the C-suite, things they can focus on. So really doubling down on their commercial understanding, working on their leadership skills. Is there any other advice that you would give to someone who is either a head or a director coming up through the seniority ranks, who wants a C-suite role ultimately? Any other guidance that you would share with them?
Probably one area that is frequently either overlooked or it's easy to overlook. It's making the company and the business and the unit ready for the future more than for the past. And with that, I mean, if you have identified a way to cannibalize your own business, do it. Because if you don't do it, somebody will be doing it very soon. So better you do it by yourself. And that's something that in some industries, it's very difficult to give away legacy profit, legacy business that are very profitable, because you keep squeezing juice out of that orange until the last drop. But then these continuous optimization on processes, which is a little bit of Taylorism, Fordism, division, economies of scale, Adam Smith, 1776. It's we've done for 250 years now. It's probably time to evolve and think about how can I kill my own business with another business model, with another operational model that can create even more value. And the logic is very simple. If you have identified it and you don't do it to keep enjoying the profits, that's great, but somebody will be finding it very soon. Yeah, because ideas float it, and if you don't take that opportunity, somebody will be doing that. And I think the history is full of it. Yeah, we can mention companies in technology, mobile phone companies that 20 years ago had 40% market share and now they disappeared, or companies that were very strong in camera making and or paper film making. Now they're gone, and yeah, the history of business is full of a company that didn't want to give up their very profitable business. They got tied to that until the last minute, but yeah, their business model was gone long before they took the decision to shut down the shop.
Fabulous. Alessandro, thank you. Fascinating to hear your journey, for you to share your experience. I'm very grateful to you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that we haven't covered?
No, probably. I think my final thought is the personal ambition and personal branding that it's all over in these days. It's very important, but the substance of what you do is decisive. And for substance, I mean, the reputation of a leader travels much faster than a CV. And reputation is only enabled by trust. And trust, at the end of the day, if I want to articulate trust, it's function of three things. As the Greek culture taught us, logos, ethos, pathos. Logos, be very logical in your articulation of thoughts. Pathos, what is the real impact on the people, the commercial relevance, how you solve people problem, how can you enable people to do something faster, better, quicker, in less time, in a more enjoyable way. That's the pathos. And ethos, at the end of the day, be yourself. Being really authentic in what you believe, not play a role like in a theater, like in a movie, but you really believe, you really use that solution, you really, your credibility is at stake, and therefore, you put yourself into that project or transformation, that sale completely. So logos, pathos, ethos as the key ingredients for trust, and trustworthiness is the key currency in these days.
What a perfect way to end the session. Thank you very, very much for your wisdom and your time. And I know the audience will really enjoy hearing all about your experiences to date. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Susie.